Well, hello. Welcome into the Eric Zane Show podcast, a daily show where I discuss news, nonsense, and my personal adventures from right here in the Impact Power Sports studio. Impact Power Sports, you can find them, impactpowersportsmi.com. Shop online for fun things that make you feel the wind rushing through your hair. Maybe a side-by-side, a UTV, ATV, ABC, EFG, DKL. An e-bike, perhaps. Yamaha golf cart. They have a full-service shop. If anything needs repairs, they are Impact Power Sports. And they're in Rockford, Michigan. Okay, let's get after it. We start early on Fridays. If you don't already know that. And excited to have you here. I stayed up late last night, which I do not like to do. But it was a Detroit Lions game. And typically, like for the Houston game, they had the same scenario, nighttime game, and I shut it off at halftime. They didn't look good in that game, and so I like shut it down. They come back and win. I'm happy. Then I'm not up to a late hour. Last night I was expecting to do that too, and it was interesting because they were up 17-7 at the half. And then the second half starts while I'm like brushing my teeth. And then I turn it on, and right away, Green Bay has scored 2 touchdowns. So it's 21-17 just like that. So, yeah, fuck, this is a good time to turn it off. They look like, fuck, they're blowing this. It's over. I didn't really say that, but I said, I don't want to commit to this. So now this is the game that's on Amazon Prime or Prime Video. Then I made the mistake, or not mistake, of while I'm laying there, you know, I like to look at my phone, see what's going on in the world. Who have I pissed off now? I go, well, if I'm doing this, I might as well just put on Amazon Prime. Just a little bit. And it was like a nail biter. The whole damn game. And Detroit goes on to win the damn thing with another last-second field goal. Now, there were a couple parts on this that kind of like Dan Campbell, the coach, has lived by this and died by this. We're going for it on 4th down mentality. And he talked about it in the press conference. He said, yeah, I did not want to give them the opportunity to get the ball back. Now, they had it at their own 30 at one point, and they went for it on 4th down and fucked it up. And the Packers got the ball, and they were only able to get a field goal out of it, and that tied the game. So now the Lions, with just a handful of minutes, get the ball back, and they start, like, just jamming it down the field. But then there was a penalty. The drive stalled, and they're in field goal range, but not that great of field goal range to win the game. It's 4th down and, like, a foot. It's tied. Green Bay doesn't have any timeouts. Campbell wants to get the fucking 1st down and then bleed the clock to 1 second, call timeout, and then kick a field goal. And he did just that. Which, I mean, if they'd have fucked that up, Green Bay would have gotten the ball back, and who knows what could have happened. But this fucking guy's balls. Jesus. And then in the actual play, on that 4th down play, it was a handoff to Knuckles. All right? And on that play, it was almost a disaster because they hiked it to Goff, and his foot kind of got tangled, and he tripped, and he fell down, and he gave the ball to Knuckles while he's on his fucking knee. And Knuckles just jammed it through for like 10 yards. It was like, fuck yes. So now they're really in field goal range. And they then were able to do that. What I was telling you, I'll bleed the clock down 1 second, call timeout. Little buddy comes out, kicks the shit out of the ball. It's only like a 35-yard field goal. It's right down the middle. Fucking Lions win. I've got the audio. This is the audio from, whoops. Hang on. This is the audio from from that fourth down play. I thought I had it. Maybe I don't. Week 14, Lions, Packers. I had it all set, and then I fucked it up. I suck so bad. I know. Why do you guys even listen to this?
On fourth down.
This is that play I'm telling you about. Dan Campbell orders the handoff.
On fourth down, Jared up under center, turns, gives it to Montgomery, gets the first down. Jared tripped as he came out from behind center, handed it to Demo, just barely got it to him. He got the first down.
This is just audio, by the way.
To the 14-yard line. You let that clock run now. Down to 30, and the Packers can't stop it.
Okay. And then this is the walk-off
Lions gunning for their 11th
field goal call with Dan Miller, the local guys. Dan Miller, Lomas Brown, Dan, and TJ Lang.
Lions gunning for their 11th straight victory. If this sails through the uprights, they'll have it. Bates is ready. Hatton will snap it. There it is. Fox the hold. Kick away. It is up, and it is good.
Yes, sir.
These Detroit Lions,
Yes,
you want to
sir.
talk about grit. You want to talk about determination. You want to talk about resiliency. This team is all of those things. What a night for the Detroit Lions. Missing pretty much their entire defensive line. They fought it out. They battled right down to the final second. And for the third time this year, Jake Bates sends it through with a game winner. 11 in a row. That's a franchise record. 12-1. Best start in franchise history. Still on top of the NFC North. Still on top of the NFC.
All right. I love the comment by Jeremy. Pastor Bates and the Legion of whom? Bates is, he's one of those dudes who, like everything he does, he says, thank God, I love you, Jesus. Like, you know, he takes one of those dumps where you hardly use any toilet paper, and he says, thank you, Jesus. Oh, my God, I love you forever. He's thanking Jesus the whole day. Linda says, who called the walk-off field goal in the chat yesterday? Was it Ben? I don't know. Maybe I mentioned that. If I did, I had since forgotten it. But Pastor Bates is a great name for that guy. And the Legion of Whom is a spinoff of what was known as the Legion of Boom, I think for Seattle. Legion of Whom is great because there was such a depletion from injury. In fact, Aleem McNeil, the big fella in the middle, he had to leave the game with an injury. Added to the list. They had signed players off of the practice squad from other teams who weren't playing. There were names that I'd never seen before in the game, and they all played very well. That lends to that whole idea that the Lions have a tendency to coach up their players or motivate them in particular ways that leads to great, great things. Case in point, Josh Reynolds, who was great with the Lions, except for the NFC Championship game, took his skills to Denver. They just cut him. This guy, Tim Patrick, who is the receiver who caught 2 touchdowns for the Lions yesterday. This guy was pulled off of the scrap heap. He had many injuries that made it so he hadn't played football in quite some time. And the Lions make this guy a star. Motherfucker. As they get healthy, hopefully, as the playoffs loom, they're really going to be on fire. I mean, they're going 3-4 on the depth chart right now to beat great teams. The Packers, very, very good. And Campbell going for it in those scenarios. I mean, that's all trying to keep the ball out of Jordan Love's hands, doing all you can. And on the broadcast with Al Michaels and that guy whose dog died, Kirk Mulberry Street or something. He's something to do with the street. They were like, yeah, I mean, for people that get driven crazy by these decisions, this is what has made this team. That's their identity. And everybody seems okay with it. Like if the Lions fuck up and don't convert a fourth down in a scenario like actually happened on their own 30, people just kind of go, he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. It's fucking great. God damn. No rest for the weary. They have, not this coming Sunday, but the next Sunday, they are at home again. They host Buffalo, who's also fucking great. Josh Allen, are you kidding me? The Lions will have their hands full in that game. Linda says she hates Buffalo. I like Buffalo. I don't like them for that game. But, I mean, this may be a preview of the Super Bowl with these two teams. They have a tough schedule to finish the year. Buffalo, and then they're at Chicago, and then they're also at Washington, I believe, who's also a playoff caliber team. And then they host Minnesota. I mean, even the Chicago game, who the Bears kind of have fallen on their ass, but I think that they have good players on that team, and they're playing in Chicago, and they're looking for some revenge. They would love nothing more than to fuck up the Lions. I'm curious as to what someone like a Joe Martinez would have to say about this incredible run. Unprecedented. Has never happened in 100 years. 100 fucking years of Lions football, virtually. And here we are, 90. I think it's actually 90 years. I see Stephen Hyde is enjoying the podcast. How are you, big fella? A couple names I don't recognize, including Tass 1965. Hello to you. Turtle Girl Michelle, welcome. Rob _T_MI. Purple Girl 2. Biggie Saint, I recognize you. Amanda is here. I had a conversation with Amanda. It usually is terrible, but she reached out. She says, "Where's the audio? Where's the audio?" I got she posted that, and I'm like, "What audio? What are we talking about?" I'm thinking. And she made that on a Patreon comment. She wrote, "Where's today's audio?" And I'm like, "Wait, on Patreon or specifically? What are you talking about? Free podcast, Patreon podcast? Are you talking about Ben and Eric? Are you talking about the audio of who are these free beers?" And so I texted her directly, and I said, "What are we talking about?" And she sent me a screenshot of her feed from her podcast app. And it did not arrive. I was like, oh boy, I don't like this. So I hadn't gotten any other complaints. And I went and looked. It posted the free, she was talking about the free podcast. The free podcast posted on my end perfectly to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I gave her the screenshots. I said, it's looking good on my end. It might be a you thing. I don't know. I guess it did arrive. That's the way people are these days. You know? If a person has access to the source, like Amanda does, and someone says to me, where is something? I'm usually going to respond. I will try to troubleshoot for you. You know? Nobody gets left out in the cold. I get all sorts of correspondence on, what do you call it? Messenger from people that I usually don't know. And then I try to respond as quickly as possible. Tom says, EZ, can I ask where you grew up? I had a friend back in the 1970s named Eric. Lived on a lake outside of Standale, Michigan. Loved to play hockey. His dad was an insurance salesman. And Eric's parents got divorced around the same time as yours, and he moved away to Texas, I think. Your story you just mentioned about your dad got me thinking. So Tom thinks that I'm his long-lost pal. I said, no, Tom. I grew up in Detroit, specifically City of Warren. Amanda says the show did come up finally on my app. Fuck Apple, Spotify sucks. I don't think it does. I don't think either of those suck. I've never had a problem. She says, I didn't tell you and I should have. I do appreciate you looking into it for me. Ryan says that Tom here just wants a friend, Big Fraud. Just pretend that you're his friend. Well, yeah, of course. I'm everybody's friend. Matthew reaches out. I get these messages from time to time. Hey, EZ, I know you don't know me. Now, when you get something like that with that first line, I'm like, uh-oh. This is going to break bad. I know it. But we've met a couple times when I was an astute follower of Free Beer and Hot Wings. I followed you after the, he writes hockey nonsense. Hockey nonsense. I think he's referring to when I got fired from the Deltaplex, which was, in fact, basketball, but whatever. But eventually, I changed shifts at work and stopped listening. I was a paid subscriber. Oh, okay. So I guess he definitely was a podcast listener. My kids had a 2-hour delay today, and while driving them in, I decided to listen to Free Beer and Hot Wings. Now, this is a guy who's not familiar with some of the things that have transpired there. He was not aware that Joe, quote unquote, retired from radio. Yeah, I'm just going to wrap up my career. And then he writes, no Joe on top of no EZ. The show sucks. I felt like I was listening to two Democrats whose favorite ice cream is everything. Well, all right. I don't know if you're necessarily going to. I don't know what the problem is with listening to Democrats. I don't give a shit if I'm listening to a Democrat as long as it's interesting. There are other reasons why that show sucks. I don't think political affiliations has anything to do with it, frankly. The show is horrible. I don't believe they are still on the radio. He tells me to hire Joe and kill it. My best to you and your family. I wrote, oh, man, I bet that was a shock to your system. Yeah, it's really, really bad. And then, like an idiot, I asked him if he's familiar with my podcast, even though earlier in the message he says he was a paid subscriber, so that's kind of dumb. Sorry. And then, him suggesting that I hired Joe. Obviously, he's not aware of what's gone on. We all know that Joe retired from radio, and he now owns radio stations. We know that because of the PPP loans that he has taken out. All right. Well, anyway, thank you very much. I actually lost my ability to message people on there for 24 hours after I got into that tiff with Scott Buckles, who was the asshole of the day earlier this week. This was the guy who came at me, attacking me, and then I told him I have cancer. And then he got all really, really, like in his own feelings and remorseful about attacking me and apologized profusely. And then I waited a few hours, and I told him that I don't have cancer, you dumb fuck. I was just trying to get you to spill your guts. Go fuck yourself. And then he got all wound up again. It was fantastic. It was some of my best trolling. That's the first time I've ever played the I've got cancer card, but I might do that again just to kind of knock him off balance. Because I told him to go fuck himself, Facebook recognized that, and they figured it out. It wasn't like a person, but the robots saw that I told the guy, I called him a dumb fuck, and told him to go fuck himself. So they said I'm not allowed to use the messenger function for 24 hours. Now I got out of that. So I typically don't really fight with bad words on any posts because I've been burned so many times and put into Facebook jail so many times from that. I didn't realize that if you're in Messenger and you tell somebody to suck your cock or tell them to go fuck yourself, that it'll figure it out and you get in trouble. So that actually happened to me. So I got to come up with a more creative way to tell people to fuck off. Tyler says, man, social media is so lame these days. You can't even tell people to go fuck themselves. Well, I think what they're doing is they're forcing you to be more creative. While I will say that a well-placed go fuck yourself is an important part of communication with assholes, there are, more strategic ways to do it. Now, that guy in particular, he needed that, especially after he spilled his guts the way he did, like apologizing after I told him that I have cancer. When I said, I don't have cancer, you dumb fuck. Fuck you. Oh, he was so hurt. It was awesome. Ryan says, I'm going to guess that whoever you sent it to reported the conversation. Perhaps. Don't know. Maybe. I don't know that you can do that. Is that a thing where you can report a conversation? I know you can report comments, but I wasn't aware you could report the conversations. If that's the case, live and learn. I take my L, my 24 hours, and lick my wounds, and away I go. Thank you for being here, especially folks on Facebook and YouTube. But I am going to kick you out. I haven't been doing a good job of this. I'm really going to sell you hard right now on Twitch. As you know, as you're watching this, me be amazing for a couple hours every day is a sight to behold. No one on earth can do what I do. The only one who does it almost as well is Bill Burr. Actually, about 50% as well. To be able to talk for 2 hours is not easy. But I've mastered this because I'm amazing. So if you want the rest of this show, it's on Twitch. You have to go to twitch.tv/Eric Zane Live. Besides, I have better hair than fucking Bill. Freckles has none. Twitch.tv/Eric Zane Live, or download the Twitch app and search Eric Zane Live. There I am. That way you get the show uninterrupted. Download the Twitch app and search Eric Zane Live. And then when I'm live, you can put it through your car, Bluetooth, whatever the fuck. You can dim the screen and hear it all. It's awesome. It's fantastic. So there you go. For the folks on YouTube and Facebook, I will dismiss you. Before I do, though, please remember my Patreon, patreon.com/Eric Zane. That is a paid platform entirely different than this one for the super fan who wants more podcasting each and every day. Now, I do another podcast every day like this one. A lot of the times I might share some personal information that I really don't want to throw out to the larger audience here. Okay, so you get like more unfiltered material about things going on in my life. All right? And not to mention, I also have several other shows that I produce. The Ben and Eric Patreon podcast happens every week, which this week featured a Q&A with Nick, the electrician, and his hard-living line sexploits. He described this woman that he raw-dogged over the weekend in great detail. You have to hear this. Also, Who Are These Free Beers is a weekly show where we review one of America's greatest morning radio shows. And when I say greatest, I mean a pile of shit. Ben and I take clips from recent shows, and we review them and have a damn good laugh, or we shake our faces, our heads in disgust. That is a weekly show. Not to mention something to listen to while I'm away. Shows from, I don't know, a decade and a half ago are there. The Lost Zane recordings from my days on WBBL. Hours of content every single week on Patreon. The best part is you can sign up for free. That's right. 7 days free can be yours. Just sign up. patreon.com/Eric Zane. Okay. Email Eric@ericzaneshow.com on the Shoreliners Striping inbox.